Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andy, and welcome to this week's Team Kentucky Update. We have some important projects to highlight today that shows our incredible economic momentum and that it has no signs of slowing. Since I became governor, we've now announced over 1,000 new location and or expansion projects, breaking all types of records, $30.5 billion of private sector investment in us in Kentucky and creating over 52,500 new jobs. It is the biggest, best economic development win streak in our history. And today we're going to talk about some statistics and some projects showing how it continues. Just today, the March 2024 unemployment report was released for Kentucky, and the state set a new total for how many jobs have ever been filled in the Commonwealth. Jobs grew by 9,400 in March for a new record high of 2,036,900 jobs. With all the announcements we've made over the past 4 years, we're also reaching a really exciting point where we're going from the announcement and the groundbreaking to the reality. You know, announcements are the hope, groundbreakings are the progress, but the ribbon cuttings are when the jobs are there, when the products are being produced, when the new opportunities are there being filled and families are able to create that better life. So last Friday, I was in E-Town to get a firsthand look at a great new project that is in full operation. Kruger Packaging's new $113 million state-of-the-art manufacturing operation. The project was announced back in 2021, and now it is up and fully running. It was great to check out the operation in person, which is in a 400,000 square foot facility in the T.J. Patterson Industrial Park. This is one of the most technologically advanced plants of its kind in the entire world. The best part is Kruger's investment is creating nearly 150 really good jobs, and it was fun. This was their Spirit Day, so we had 3 guys dressed up in Tennessee Volunteer. And thankfully, we had a lot more, and Kentucky Wildcat or others, but a great culture, great leadership, and everybody I talked to was so excited about this new employer and these new jobs. So I want to thank Kruger Packaging's leaders, as well as partners at LG&E and KU, which is making sure the facility has all the power that it needs. I also want to take a minute to talk about an incredible project in Shelby County that we're working on that I'm going to highlight tomorrow. I'm going to travel to Shelbyville tomorrow afternoon, where I'll be joined by David Turk, who is the Deputy Secretary of the United States Department of Energy, and executives from Veland, which is a major metal fabricator. Veland is already a great Team Kentucky partner and has made huge investments. In early 2021, Veland announced they were going to locate their North American headquarters in Louisville. That was an $8.8 million investment that created 75 full-time jobs. Just 4 months later, Veland announced plans to invest $100 million and create 75 quality jobs, building a copper and copper alloy recycling center in Shelby County. So tomorrow, we'll be at that new plant, but talking about the potential advanced copper recycling facility project. That would be a nearly $875 million project by Veland in Kentucky, with the Department of Energy providing up to $270 million in grants. This is an incredibly important project that has multiple goals. Its state-of-the-art processing would turn a mix of copper scrap and other metals into the high-purity copper required for semiconductors, for EV applications, and more. It'll also dramatically reduce the carbon footprint for this kind of metal manufacturing, and it will secure America's national security interests by ensuring a stable and abundant supply of high-grade copper. And of course, my favorite part is the jobs. We get this done, Veland expects to create another 200 permanent full-time jobs through several phases of the project. They're also prioritizing hiring not just from Shelby County, which they are, but they'll have internship programs with Kentucky State University, Simmons College, and other institutions interested in creating pathways to jobs in advanced manufacturing. I want to thank Veland, the Department of Energy, and all the state and local leaders who are working to make this project possible. All right, this month is also a special month where we are observing National Second Chance Month. This is a time for folks to come together and support Kentuckians who are returning to their communities after paying their debt to society or overcoming addiction. Helping people get back on their feet is a win-win. It helps our families, it helps our communities, and it helps fill open jobs in our workforce. A second chance can rebuild a life, and it reduces the chances of someone returning to prison. For me, so much of this work originates from my faith, which teaches us second chances aren't just the right thing to do, they're what we are called to do. That we are our brother and sister's keeper, and that none of us are our worst moments. That there is always an opportunity for a better life ahead. Scripture tells us, so continue encouraging each other and building each other up, just like you are doing already. Today, we have a new way that we're going to help Kentuckians and businesses with second chances. But before we get to today's news, I want to talk about what we've been doing as an administration and as a Commonwealth up to this point, because I'm proud of so many different groups coming together to do such good work. On my third day in office, I restored voting rights to Kentuckians who had completed their sentences for nonviolent, non-sexual offenses. Now we've restored 192,698 Kentuckians' right to participate in our great democracy. In September, we launched the Jobs on Day One initiative, which helps former inmates become strong candidates for Kentucky's fast-paced labor market. In June, we announced that Simmons College of Kentucky, a private, historically black college in Louisville, is offering courses at 3 state prisons: Kentucky Correctional Institution for Women, North Point Training Center, and Luther Luckett Correctional Complex. I should point out they're doing this through Pell Grants. And this is a program they brought to us, which is a pretty special service that Simmons originated and is now working with us on. We launched a statewide project that provides transportation at no cost to former inmates so that they can get to addiction treatment, job interviews, education, and employment. 95% of our state inmate population will be released from incarceration at some point. So we have to remove barriers to reentry to society. And we've done that by asking our Department of Corrections to issue certifications of employability to those who successfully complete a number of programs. This administration efforts continue to expand, and it's paying off. Since becoming governor in 2019, I'm proud to say the state has recorded the 3 lowest annual recidivism rates in over a decade. That means that we are safer. That means that people are getting their lives back together, getting back with their families. That is success both on a societal level and on a deeply personal level for those that are securing these jobs and moving forward. Together, we are connecting inmates with employers who are looking for candidates, and we're matching them with industries where they have prior experience. We have our Reentry Division Director and Assistant Director from the Department of Corrections with us today, Kristen Porter and Christy Sorrell. Thank you for the work you all do day in and day out. I've signed legislation to help businesses access treatment for employees or the incarcerated population with addiction. We also offer the Putting Kentuckians First program. This program helps those transitioning out of incarceration or addiction treatment and recovery get into the workforce. To support public safety, Teen Kentucky offers second chances to those who have committed low-level drug offenses for the first time. We have programs like the Rocket Docket that get people through the justice system and into the treatment they need as quickly as possible, making it possible for lower-level offenses to be dismissed when people get through and complete that treatment. We've also provided funding through the Office of Drug Control Policy to the Kentucky Chamber Fair Chance Academy to help businesses hire and retain second chance talent. To date, the Chamber and these foundation members, I think we've got a couple of them here today, have helped identify 730 fair chance employers in our state, and that number is growing. We want to thank everyone who's taken part in this effort. We also have 10 counties certified as recovery-ready communities. That means they have established addiction treatment programs and offer transportation to and from employment services and job interviews. We've also focused on offering educational opportunities. This has always been an education-first administration. It means that everybody ought to have access to educational opportunities. Through the Education and Labor Cabinet, we offer registered apprenticeship programs like building trades where folks can potentially earn a nationally recognized credential. And I want to thank our unions and our trades for agreeing to become directly involved, especially at some of our correctional institutions, truly getting that hands-on training, and then providing support to individuals as they transition out, a group around that can provide that support and those skills that are so highly sought after right now. And we offer free educational, training, and career resources in every Kentucky county. That includes GED preparation classes and testing, family literacy programs, job-related skills certifications, and college preparation. Thanks to our free GED initiative, nearly 10,170 Kentuckians have earned their GED diploma since January of 2020. And when you put all this together, you see good things happening even in areas that some may have lost hope. That's not just low recidivism rates. It's the fact that the last year they measured, 2022, we were one of only 8 states that saw a significant decrease in overdose deaths. That's everybody working hard. That's the stability of a good job after reentry or after treatment. And it means that more of our brothers and sisters across Kentucky are succeeding. And just think about that number for a minute. I mean, the fentanyl that's out there is getting more and more dangerous, meaning an overdose is easier or more possible every day, yet we have fewer people that are dying from it, at least in the last couple of years. That's a lot of hard work. That's a lot of changes that have been made, and everyone who's had any part of that, from peer support specialists to everybody else, thank you for so much work. And there's a family out there that still has a loved one because of your work. That's also Narcan being everywhere we can put it, and we ought to continue to support that, because the answer to how many times should you resuscitate someone who's overdosing, it's every single time. That's somebody's child. That's somebody's friend. That is a life, a child of God. It's our responsibility to make sure we bring them back every single time and try to help. And the future's bright. I mean, I just read off some of our economic development statistics right now. We've got good jobs. The last 2 years, we averaged $26 an hour as our average incentivized wage. First time ever it's been that high, 2 consecutive years. And so we think about a lot of these services in times of great difficulty. Well, in times of prosperity, our opportunity to get someone stability and to make major change. And that change doesn't just impact them, it impacts their kids and their kids' kids. It is intra-generational change. The example that somebody who's gotten their life back on track sets for the rest of their family and those around them is something special and important. And today we're going to celebrate it here in a minute. So with the historic progress we're seeing, we have a responsibility to make sure prosperity reaches everyone. So today we're launching a new website, a one-stop shop of resources available for Kentuckians who need a second chance and for businesses who want to join us in creating a better Kentucky. It's called secondchance.ky.gov. This is an attempt to bring all of those things in one place for folks who are looking to rebuild their lives and don't know what all the possibilities are out there and how they can all work together. It's an attempt to take any bureaucracy from government or our partners and remove it, to make it as easy as possible for people to see that there is help and that we want to get you on the right track. From employment opportunities, addiction treatment, to education, you can find it all here. And the resources that we offer to businesses, to all those that want to step up and do what's right and be a part of this important movement. So this is a really exciting step towards helping even more Kentuckians and making a real difference for our families. So today we have Kentucky Dam Village Park Manager Scott Rasliff with us. Scott is a part of the effort we have at our state parks and second chances. As state government, as Team Kentucky, we want to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And we have Sarah Young, an employee who works as a cook at the state park with us today, who has benefited from this program. Would y'all join us and say a few words? Welcome.
Hello. Yes, my name is Scott Rasliff, Park Manager at Kentucky Dam Village. I'm thrilled to tell you about the Second Chance Employment Initiative we've started at the park and the park system. As you know, our state parks have been short-staffed with positions staying vacant for far too long. But today we have a solution that addresses the shortage and makes a real difference in what we can provide for our guests. We carefully select individuals who have served their time and are ready to rejoin the workforce and contribute to our community. By offering them jobs in our beautiful state parks, we're giving them a chance to learn new skills and find purpose while making the parks a better place. But let me be clear, guest safety is still important to us. We're choosing candidates who share the commitment to ensure visitors have a secure and wonderful environment when they come to visit. By supporting this initiative during tough times, we're showing that we believe in the second chance, reducing the likelihood of reoffending and creating more understanding community. With a dedicated, carefully selected staff, we can provide the top-notch service to our guests which our guests deserve. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Giving people a second chance, improving our parks, and strengthening our community. We're proud to lead the way in this possible adventure.
I'd like to start by thanking everybody that makes the reentry program possible. You all give us a second chance to obtain a life that we may not have thought was attainable. I know I never imagined I'd become a full-time state employee, and however, because I followed my passion for cooking and showed how hard I'm willing to work to prove that I'm no longer what my criminal record says, Scott Ratzliff and the Kentucky Dam Village saw my potential. The park began working with the reentry program to give those of us with a dark past a much brighter future. This is truly a blessing, and I'm beyond grateful and proud to say that I'm the first person at our park to have this opportunity. Now, instead of wondering which restaurant might hire me, my future is secured, and I owe it all to this program. So instead of cooking for you, Governor Beshear, I'm going to thank you.
Oh. I'm gonna come by and we can
Absolutely.
cook sometime
I
too.
will.
Okay? All right.
I'll show you. I'll show you how to do it.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Sarah. That can't be easy, but you set an example and you create hope for so many other people. So thanks for being a part of Team Kentucky, and you're an important part of Team Kentucky. So. Now, when it comes to job growth, this is a team sport. Our private sector partners right now are creating a better Commonwealth and providing real opportunities. Today, I'm excited for you to hear from one of our great teammates, Barbara Aker, with More Than a Bakery in Versailles. She serves as the company's Family Pride Director. More Than a Bakery was a graduate from the first class of the Fair Chance Academy. Barbara, would you join us to tell us a little more about the program? Your facility is also about a half a mile from my uncle's house, so we drive by it all the time.
Yeah, stop by. Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Aker. I'm the Family Pride Director at More Than a Bakery in Versailles. I'm happy to be a part of today's recognition of Second Chance Month. I hope we can encourage more employers to consider second chance hiring to help ourselves and help Kentucky. Second chances are important to me on a personal level. My nephew struggled for over a decade with addiction and got tangled up in the justice system. Unfortunately, he lost his battle with addiction in 2019. The loss was devastating for my family, and watching my brother and his wife grieve over the loss of their firstborn child was unbearable. I prayed for months for guidance on how I could make a difference and hopefully prevent more tragedies like this one. In 2022, the Kentucky Chamber announced its first Fair Chance Academy, and I got the email and I jumped out of my chair, ran straight to our president, Bill Quigg, and I explained why I felt so passionate about this. He's like, let's do it. So I wanted to be a catalyst for change and hopefully give someone like my nephew a chance to succeed. Since my graduation from the Fair Chance Academy, our bakery has instituted Fair Chance hiring. We take an individualized approach, much like you guys, so we can ensure we're making a candidate or choosing a candidate that's going to be a good culture fit and also a productive family member. Our success rate with those coming out of the justice system has been high in the areas of retention, job promotion, and overall culture fit for us. More than 80 million Americans, which is roughly a quarter of the US population, have a criminal record. As an employer, if we open ourselves up to this talent pool, not only are we helping ourselves and those who need a hand to be successful, we are helping our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you to Barbara and everyone at More Than a Bakery, and thank you for all of our second chance employers that are out there. And remember, online, we can connect you to the Academy, to other resources if you want to consider being a second chance employer. It will help you with your workforce needs, and it's the right thing to do. They're not mutually exclusive. you can help the world, you can help a single individual, and you can fulfill your business needs all at the same time. Finally, we're going to hear from Dr. John Gregory, who oversees our Office of Adult Education. John is going to share more about the resources we have to support education and job growth. Dr. Gregory.
Thank you so much, sir. My name is J.C. Gregory. I am the Executive Director of the Office of Adult Education in the Education and Labor Cabinet. So what this is really all about is we want to keep the main thing the main thing. And Sarah has just demonstrated that the main thing are people like her who have had the opportunity to reinvent themselves through a second chance. So thank you so very much. So when we talk about this, let's look through the lens of beginning with the end in mind. And we're speaking in terms of workforce development. So what does that look like? That looks like an individualized plan for those individuals that have the passion to learn. And we're going to take those God-given gifts and turn them into skills. So let's break that down. So we're talking about those individuals across the Commonwealth that maybe have not had the opportunity to complete the high school process. We will take them hand in hand through the GED, and they will complete that process. We're talking about folks that have a desire to go to college in whatever shape, form, or fashion. We once again will take their hand and walk them through that process. We're talking about folks that want to get into the skilled trades and all different types of things of that nature. Once again, we relish in the opportunity to be just a small component of that success story. So again, this is a systems process. So this is the education, the training, the upskilling that leads to employment, and not just employment. We're talking about the transformation of gifts and talents into skills that will, number one, benefit the individual who is transitioning and their families, but also significantly the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So let me just say one more time, the Education and Labor Cabinet under the leadership of Team Kentucky give us an opportunity to walk this journey and experience your success. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right, next we have some great news about funding that's going to help shelter some of our most vulnerable Kentuckians. I'm proud to announce an award of $23 million that's going to the Kentucky Housing Corporation. This money is a reallocation of emergency rental assistance funds awarded through the Federal American Rescue Plan. The Kentucky Housing Corporation, or KHC, will use the funding on housing development projects for homeless, low-income, and elderly Kentuckians. This is pretty timely with some legislation that we've seen. $16 million will fund 3 affordable housing projects. The first is Town View Apartments. That is a 24-unit development in Hyden, Leslie County. 17 duplexes comprising 34 units in Owsley County. And in Lexington, Wellington Park Apartments, 45 co-housing units for elderly folks living in Fayette County. And $6.5 million will go to 10 homeless service providers covering several of our area development districts. This funding helps pay for hotel and motel stays, short-term rental assistance, utility deposits, and assistance and other services. The awardees include the Clark County Community Services and Clark County Homeless Coalition, Gateway Homeless Coalition, Homeless and Housing Coalition of Kentucky, KCEOC Community Action in the Cumberland ad, Kentucky River Community Care, Life Skills, Mountain Comprehensive Care, Salvation Army Hopkinsville, Volunteers of America Mid-States, and Welcome House with 3 separate awards in the Buffalo Trace, Lake Cumberland, and Northern Kentucky ads. We're looking forward to the positive impact that these funds can provide. I continue to believe that we're ultimately judged by our Creator on how we treat the lost, the lonely, and the left behind, and secure housing and aid for the homelessness, for the homeless certainly falls into how we treat the lost, the lonely, and the left behind. All right, next we have a pretty exciting announcement for Elliot County. So for some time, Team Kentucky has been putting abandoned mineland economic revitalization grants to work to repurpose the coal fields of Eastern Kentucky and to grow new jobs. In October of 2022, I announced a $4.6 million grant to Elliot County to build a center that would bring together 911 calls, the fire department, and all emergency operations. After everything we've been through, from tornadoes to floods and more tornadoes, we know how critically important emergency services are. This is needed because the original 911 center was destroyed in a fire, and the current fire department structure is aging and in need of costly repairs. I'm happy to say that a memorandum of agreement has been signed, and work will soon begin on a building that will also serve as a classroom for first responders, continuing education, and in times of need, a warming center and a shelter for residents of Elliot County. Think about the ice storms that we've had and other challenges. Those warming centers are so important. This facility means that families in Elliot County will know that whatever emergency hits, they will get the quick, coordinated response. And I have updates on two other Elliot County projects. A $1.13 million project to construct a food pantry for the Elliot County Christian Community Center, funded by a community development block grant, is under construction with a concrete floor and carport loading area. The new food pantry will include storage areas for dry goods and cold storage. Another project in the county that improves clean water service to 1,265 households and 85 businesses in the Sandy Hook Water District is nearing completion. Funded with a $1.5 million grant from the Appalachian Regional Commission Central Appalachian Distrust County Infrastructure Initiative, $2 million in federal funds and $1.2 million in local funding. This is a massive project for Elliot County, and we are getting close to its completion. All right, next up, we have an update on our medical cannabis program with some specific updates based on new legislation that's come out with some fixes that were certainly needed. So since taking office, we've been committed to providing access to healthcare and creating safer communities for all of Kentucky. Just a year ago, I signed Senate Bill 47, which legalizes medical cannabis beginning in January of 2025. Since that time, we filed 15 regulations to implement this new program. Those rules provide for how medical cannabis businesses will operate and how Kentuckians with qualifying conditions can become cardholders. We have worked hard to create a safe system that limits or eliminates abuse while still providing relief to that veteran suffering from PTSD or individuals suffering from unbearable epileptic seizure after epileptic seizure. In order to ensure Kentuckians can access medical cannabis, we now need to begin licensing cannabis businesses. Due to federal laws, unlike other medical products, all of our medical cannabis must be cultivated, processed, and produced right here in the Commonwealth. That whole system has to happen within our borders. Under Senate Bill 47, we were going to have a challenge. The ability to purchase medical cannabis was supposed to begin January 1st, 2025, and that's the first time we could license a business. So there was no way everything was going to be up and running because you have to be licensed to have the product or to grow the product or to process the product. And we need the time to make sure that we are in every step of the enforcement in this process to make sure that it is safe. So knowing that patients needed access to this medication sooner rather than later, we were capable, we informed the General Assembly of the issue and we worked on a solution, which is why I'm pleased to announce that yesterday I signed House Bill 829 into law. Among other things, the bill takes the important step of moving up the timeline for business licensing by 6 months. In other words, we can accept the applications, we can get the licenses out, and there is time for these businesses to do it right and for us to ensure that they are doing it right. As a result, the program can begin issuing license, though there can't begin certainly patients can't get it until 2025, but businesses can operate in 2024, the middle, as opposed to 2025. I'm also pleased to report we're taking steps to meet the quicker timeline by filing licensing and application regulations. The new regulations establish a licensing structure for cannabis businesses, an application and review process and timeline, and application and licensing fees. Remember, you can always learn more by visiting kymedcan.ky.gov. So, under these new regulations, businesses can begin applying for a cannabis business license beginning July 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2024. Applicants will be required to pay an application fee, submit documentation, and information. So this is the timeline we're looking at right now. Documentation, which is the next slide, that'll be required, includes a business history, operation plans, ownership information, business location and site plans, and financial information. Applicants will also have one opportunity to fix any issue in their application following the initial submission. It's a new process. We want to work with people through it. In crafting these new rules, we've been focused on ensuring our cannabis business licensing is fair and transparent. We believe that anybody who is interested in being a part of this exciting new industry should have the opportunity to do so as long as they can do it safely and meet the necessary criteria. That's why today I'm excited to announce that we will be issuing our medical cannabis business license using a lottery system. To do so, we've partnered with the Kentucky Lottery Corporation. The license lottery will be held in October of this year. That will be a lottery that will select a certain number of those that apply for each of the different levels that are out there. This is what states are moving towards. It reduces or eliminates litigation, and it creates a more fair process, not one where people bid against each other, and only then the big companies can be a part of it, but one that provides at least a chance for everyone who can meet the criteria. So I'm going to turn it over to Sam Flynn, our program's executive director, who's going to tell us more.
Thank you, Governor. I want to thank you for your leadership, and I want to thank the Office of the Governor and the Cabinet leadership for their support for this program. I also want to thank my team, whose hard work makes this announcement today possible. Under Senate Bill 47, our program was required to file all implementing regulations by July 1 of 2024. With the filing of these business and licensing regulations today, we have completed that task 2 full months ahead of that deadline. And thanks to the governor for signing House Bill 829, we'll now be able to begin licensing cannabis businesses starting July 1 of 2024. Again, 6 full months ahead of the original schedule. As the governor noted, we're excited to be issuing those licenses through a lottery process. We considered a number of other processes used in other states and determined this was the most fair and transparent way to build this exciting industry here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It should be noted that other states are also adopting this approach, as the governor mentioned. We are also excited to announce our initial license allocation. Because our program is focused on patient access, it's critical that our cannabis business licensing ensures that new industry is stable and sustainable, and with an emphasis on small business, and provides product growth to meet cardholder demand. For that reason, the initial license availability for each business category will be as follows. There will be 10 Tier 1 cultivator licenses, that's the 2,500 square foot license, 4 Tier 2 cultivator licenses, 2 Tier 3 cultivator licenses in the first initial license period. There will also be 10 processor licenses made available and 48 dispensary licenses. I will note that the program will not be issuing Tier 4, that's the 50,000 square foot cultivator licenses in this round, and we will also not be issuing producer licenses in the first round of the license process. For safety compliance facilities, that's the testing laboratories, there will be no initial license limitation. It's important to note that while some license types relate directly to the production or testing of cannabis, like processors or cultivators, and can be located anywhere in the state, to ensure patient access, dispensaries need to be located near Kentucky cardholders so that they can have access to medical cannabis for their serious qualifying conditions. That's why our program has created 11 medical cannabis dispensary licensing regions. This is for licensing only. These regions were developed in conjunction with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the Commonwealth Office of Technology to ensure that Kentuckians with qualifying conditions like cancer and PTSD have the shortest possible drive time to the medical cannabis dispensary nearest them. Approximated drive times are reflected in a drive time analysis, again, provided by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and that will be available on our website and is available here. To ensure that dispensaries are evenly distributed throughout the Commonwealth, each region will initially have 4 dispensary licenses per region, with the exception of the Kentuckiana and Bluegrass regions, which will have 6. And no county can have more than 1 dispensary in the initial license allocation, with the exception of our 2 largest counties, Jefferson County and Fayette County, which will have 2 each. Again, our goal is to ensure that Kentuckians with qualifying conditions have safe, affordable access to medicinal cannabis, and we structure this licensing process again in a way that is fair and transparent. I encourage all potential business license applicants to review the application licensing regulations, which we filed today. And I want to note that we sought to make the application process accessible to any business that is serious about being a responsible licensee in Kentucky. And we designed a business-friendly application process with helpful resources for that purpose. Those include a business licensing application guide, which will walk applicants step by step through this process. Again, we appreciate the support from the governor and his vision, and we look forward to the launch of the business licensing for Kentucky's medical cannabis program this year. Thank you, Governor.
If all that seemed very specific, it is. Now, this is not recreational cannabis. This is medical cannabis. And we have an idea of how many people will qualify for the conditions that exist. And so flooding a market with a product without scaling it to the number of people who could qualify for it is pretty much what happened to hemp when they issued just a ton of different licenses, and a whole lot of farmers suffered from serious and significant financial harm. So the goal here is knowing that there is a limited number of purchasers and patients, ensuring we scale it in the right way. So none of our farmers, our cultivators get in trouble by going too far. And also, you can see this is not about having a dispensary on every corner. It is a limited program that we can monitor and fulfill the promise we made of doing this safely, but also having access in each region for people that do qualify. So I think you'll see we have really worked to do this as responsibly as possible in both the business side as well as the patient side. And as we move forward after a year or 2 years, depending on the numbers, depending on numbers of conditions that may be added, we have a chance to further scale it. And you can always scale up. You can't scale down without cutting people out of a business they've already qualified for. So we're happy to take more questions on this as we go. Also, we'll make sure that the maps and the numbers are available for everyone. The most important thing for these businesses that want to be a part is that they see the deadlines for the applications, and they know that this is ultimately going to be a lottery process, which should take all of the lobbying to pick me or any of the things in something like this that could encourage people to try to get a leg up in different ways that we don't want to see. We want a fair process for anybody who may want to be involved. Okay, now that the 2024 legislative session is concluded, I was going to provide some updates on actions I've taken since Monday. This session provided a chance to make some key investments in our budget through the next biennium. We worked with the legislature throughout the process, and while there are a couple of things that were not in this budget that this state desperately needs and will hold us back until we get them, like significant educator raises and universal pre-K, there is a lot for Kentuckians to be excited about in the budget. The budget includes another $70 million for the Kentucky Product Development Initiative program, or KPDI, in each of the years. This is our site development program that helps us win speed to market. That's how I can tell any CEO that we can get their facility up and operating faster than anywhere else in the country. I got to be in E-Town where Advanced Nano Products told Janet Yellen, the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, that we got them going faster than they've ever seen anybody in their industry. That's just one way that we win and continue to attract good jobs And this is a very flexible program that allows us to help local areas buy land, build a pad, run utilities to it, create an access road, just different things that help not just be shovel ready, but build ready. The budget also included $130 million to support approved mega projects. We're seeing larger projects than ever in history, Blue Oval being the biggest ever, AESC being the second biggest ever. But we opened Nucor Brandenburg, which was a $1 billion plus project. Other projects look like they're growing into $1 billion plus projects. So this is a fund, and we had it in the last one, we call it the closing fund, that gives us the flexibility without a special session to compete when that company says, if only we'd had this last thing, and we can stare at them and say, well, you'd sign if you had the last thing? They say yes, and we close the deal. We did get extra flexibility though, even in this fund in this session, and that flexibility is specifically areas that haven't seen enough jobs in a long time. Maybe areas where the population is smaller, so the size of the project. You know, what is a big mega project in one region of the state might not qualify in another. And this gives us the flexibility to deliver in some of those areas. It's something we asked for. It's something that all the leadership in the legislature saw, and it's going to really help us in certain areas of the state. In the budget, Senate Bill 91, that was, some call it the cleanup, but it added certain things. Came back and did a number of things that we had asked and a number of things we needed. It provided us the $300 million pool I asked for the Mountain Parkway and I-69, though it does condition them on securing major federal grants. So this is one where you don't get everything you want, but this is the main reason that we need it. This is how we got the Brent Spence Companion Bridge grant. There is a huge round of funding that is opened up from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And this is the way to say we have our skin in the game, and we know for a fact that you score better when that's there. So I want to thank leadership in both the House and the Senate for adding this in. Again, not the way I wanted it initially, but it's going to give us a good tool to try to push to get a big grant for those projects. Just like in my first term, additional money for water and wastewater. Water and wastewater creates jobs. It brings clean drinking water to people that haven't had it. It increases capacity, which helps for economic development. It helps with pressure, which helps people fight fires. And we just have such need across our state. So this budget includes $150 million for 2 new programs, an emergency fund for troubled or economically restrained water and wastewater system, as well as $184 million for 40 specific water and wastewater projects throughout the Commonwealth. In disaster response, I was, and I continue to be critical about limitations on responding to natural disasters. The way you ought to respond to a natural disaster is to do everything you can to be there for your people. But I had talked about how there were 2 numbers that while I didn't think there should be a limit, were flipped. There was $25 million for emergency response and $50 million for FEMA match. Well, we've gone over $25 million in emergency response each of the last 3 fiscal years. In fact, I think we'll have gone over 50. And we've never hit the 50 million in one fiscal year on a FEMA match. So Senate Bill 91 flipped those and gave us more money, at least, for the emergency response. So we now have not 25, but 50 in that initial emergency response. Again, not what I was looking for, not the policy I think we should have, but it's better. And this is what we asked for in the final days, and they delivered, and we appreciate it. To date, I have signed 169 bills. And so today, just like I did last week, just a few I want to highlight. One is House Bill 469, officially establishing the Purple Star Schools program and setting requirements for eligibility. This is something that Brittany and I have been participating in, and now it's officially part of state law. Kentucky's already implemented a thriving Purple Star Schools program in coordination with the Kentucky Department of Education and the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services. These are a designation for schools that are specifically friendly with our nation's armed forces, including National Guard and reserves, with all the sacrifices that our military heroes make, ensuring the schools welcome their kids and provide those supports. You know, if a parent or 2 parents are deployed, That's not easy on a child. And having a school system that has those wraparound services up and ready to go and recognizes the sacrifice of the family and says, we're going to support your kid that much more. That's another way we get people into our armed forces, to say, you take on extra risk and we're going to take on extra responsibility to you and your kids. I also signed Senate Bill 74, which included the provisions of the Momnibus bill. This is a great bipartisan effort that all the concerning stuff was pushed out at the end. Isn't that great? I mean, different people had tried to attach things that didn't have anything to do with this bill, and in the end, they did what was right. It ensures access to critical prenatal and post-birth care for new moms and babies. It not only increases healthcare coverage for expecting mothers, but it also provides increased services and accessibilities to mental health care, as well as telehealth visits. It's going to have a big impact. And before we close, I want to remind Kentuckians that we're only a little over a week away from the Team Kentucky Derby Week kickoff. This event is our way of starting off the Derby Week festivities here in Frankfort. There's something for the whole family to enjoy. There'll be live music, food trucks, games and crafts, and Common Fest is returning to offer beer and spirits from dozens of Kentucky breweries and distilleries. So we hope to see everybody there Saturday, April 27th, the Saturday before Derby, from noon to 5 p.m. on the south lawn of the Capitol. And next month, April, I want to note, is the month of the military child, a time when we celebrate Kentucky's military children and remind them how special they are. With our Commonwealth being home to 2 major Army installations, as well as thousands of National Guard and reservists, Kentucky has over 40,000 military children. These are kids who make sacrifices daily so their loved ones can serve our country. Over the past few years, Brittany has gotten to meet quite a few of our military families and children at Fort Knox and Fort Campbell, and tomorrow she'll be back at Fort Knox to meet with some of our military children. I can't wait to hear about her visit. They like when she goes there much more than when I go there. Brittany and I have made it a priority to support Kentucky's military families. So today, we're going to make the Team Kentucky All-Stars, everybody involved in the Purple Star School program, all of our educators who wrap their arms around these kids, as well as our military children and families themselves. All right, so with that, we will open it up to questions. We'll start with Sarah Michaels.
Governor, good afternoon. I have 2 questions, one about medical cannabis. There was provision in the budget that withdrew some money from the Office of Medical Cannabis until certain studies were done, and also there's a possibility of wet drive kind of votes in the bill now. Do you think either of those will float the impact of that? And my second question is, there were several bills that didn't quite make it. They were controversial this session, like Senate Bill 6, SNAP, child labor. Why do you think those didn't make it across the finish line?
Well, first, I believe that at least one of the conditions on funding has already been met as it relates to medical cannabis. I believe the advisory committee has already issued the necessary opinion about there being enough research and credibility. So no, I think this is going to move ahead. I think in January 1 of next year, you will see a regulated dispensary in each of these regions, more than one. And you will see people with the cards that they need, where a doctor or an APRN has certified the condition. I think we're moving ahead, and it will be available, maybe if not in every county, and it won't be available in every county. It'll be available in every region. In this session, while it certainly felt, as toxic as the session has felt in Frankfort, and I don't think I'm alone in thinking that, there were some really nasty bills that thankfully failed. I mean, there was a pro-child labor bill. Who is pro-child labor? And thankfully, that one failed. And cutting food assistance to the working poor isn't going to get more people working. They were already working. All it was going to do is get them to stop working so that they would qualify again. So the fact that those bills did not move forward, that the anti-DEI bill did not move forward, are all good things. I mean, our reputation right now has changed so much nationwide. I mean, people are talking about Kentucky in a totally different way than they did 4 years ago. Let's not be cruel. Let's not cut food assistance to our people, promote child labor, or get out there and be against diversity. I mean, we're establishing a great reputation that businesses want to be a part of. Let's not mess it up now. Jessica Umbro.
The first one has to do with medical cannabis.
Yes.
Of course, it's rapidly growing industry. Some people have been critical that this doesn't go far enough in expanding access. Is there room to grow, figuratively and literally,
Yeah.
room to grow in this industry for those who maybe are concerned about still seeing this as a limited access, or is this kind of the ends right now?
No, there is certainly room to grow on the medical cannabis program, but we saw through hemp. If you don't grow it appropriately and you create too many licenses too early, you can bankrupt a lot of businesses. Listen, we are way behind in what number state we are on medical cannabis, but it does mean we can look at every other state and see what's worked and what hasn't. Looked at how we implemented sports betting. We were able to take all those best practices and do it right. So no, this is likely the minimum that you will see on the program moving forward. But again, you can only scale up. Scaling back, hurts businesses, hurts people, and hurts access. And we're going to get an idea as we go, and through regulations we can increase. We have flexibility on how we do it as we go, but getting it right the first time. And I think it's important that we prove to the General Assembly and the people that we can do it safely and that we can regulate it appropriately. And that means we don't start huge. We start with a manageable program that yes, can grow. And I'm sure there will be some that wish that there were more out there. Give us time and let us do it right. And I want to thank Senator West, who got that bill through. Senator West and I don't agree all the time. We don't agree on a lot of things, but he proved that we can disagree on two different things and come together and get important changes in on one that we do agree on. That's how we're supposed to govern. And your second one?
Regarding House Bill 5, of course, you had spoken out about some of the more controversial aspects of the bill, specifically for smaller communities, particularly in Western Kentucky. Now there's concern about implementation of some of what House Bill 5 calls on for people being incarcerated. So now that it's passed and it's gone through, how are you going to try and work with communities who are concerned about implementation?
Well, implementation of a bill like House Bill 5 takes time and effort. I did a lot of this as Attorney General because when changes are made in the criminal code, you got to put together the materials. You've got to educate existing law enforcement. We do that through DOCJT, the Department of Criminal Justice Training. And then you'll see the bigger groups do it on their own, as well as smaller meetings that departments will have. And so you've got to make sure that law enforcement knows things that are now a crime that weren't a crime, what the different elements are that makes it an arrestable offense, how to deal with some of these situations. On the incarceration side for jails and prisons, the answer is you do the best you can because you have a limited number of cells, you have a limited amount of room, and you have no control on how many individuals are sent there. That's why, I believe that you ought to pay your bills. And House Bill 5, coupled with the new limitations we have on necessary government expenses related to incarceration, means we will likely not be able to pay our bills, right? So the amount we have in the budget for corrections and for payments to jails, which house the lower level felons, was set on assumptions that did not include House Bill 5. And just looking at those assumptions, over the past 18 years, I think 13 of them we've gone over. And then 10 of those 13, we've gone over by more than the new limit they set. And that's before House Bill 5. And so we work with law enforcement on the new implementations. We also work with nonprofits and others that can hopefully help our homeless population not be in those situations. I mean, you want to prevent a crime or a violation from occurring if you can. But we're going to have some unfixable challenges that come out of this. We hit that limit. I can't pay a jail for housing a lower level felon, an inmate. And so that's only resolvable by special session. Okay, Carolina.
Governor, I understand you guys are essentially moving up the timeline for these licenses when it comes to the medical cannabis program. But from what I understand, right, no growing can happen, no processing can happen. Basically nothing can happen until those licenses are issued. So even with the moved up timeline, is that enough time to ensure that come January, Kentuckians can access quality products?
Well, you definitely pointed out that the licensing is occurring earlier, but it's only open to patients at the same time. And then I'll get into the other part. So people ought to know that while we're moving up the timeline, we're doing that on the business side so they can be prepared for the date that the original bill said people could access medical marijuana. Sam, you want to talk about the other piece?
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for your question. Your question was about whether with the updated timeline where we can begin issuing licenses starting in July of this year. And of course, that is the plan and the approach that we're taking. Whether businesses, once they become licensed after October, can then start their operations. The answer to that is yes. However, and House Bill 829, and again, thank you to Senator West for his hard work on that. House Bill 829 makes clear that dispensaries cannot begin dispensing medical cannabis, as the governor noted, until January 1 of 2025.
So January 1 of 2025, is that enough time to ensure there are quality products on the shelves here?
Let me add to that. It gives us a better chance of hitting that deadline, other than everybody can start operating in January of 2025. I mean, there's still, remember, it all has to occur within the Commonwealth. So you can't purchase medical marijuana from a different state and put it in your dispensary. So we still will have to do the growing, the processing, and then ultimately the sales. And I think we'll have a better idea from those businesses as they apply of that startup time. But these changes make it at least give us a better chance of having product at the earliest possible time. Yeah.
And I'll just add that as you'll see from our tiered licensing structure and the initial licensing allocation, we prioritize small business. We want to give small business in the Commonwealth the opportunity to be part of this new and exciting industry. And we believe that with respect to the small business cultivators, that their startup time will be increased, much smaller startup time compared to much larger growers that are in, for example, 25,000 foot facilities. 2,500 square feet is the tier 1 cultivator, and that is the tier where we have the most licenses initially available.
Just one more follow-up. I guess, are you guys concerned that there's a potential scenario out there where things won't happen in time for January?
Well, there was no way it was going to happen in January if you got your license to grow the date it was supposed to. So this gives our best chance to hit that, and we'll provide more updates as we get more feedback. I believe that it's likely in January that there will at least be limited supply, but whether, again, it's April, and people can now begin applying in July, and we've got to do all the background checks and everything else on them. So what we did is buy ourselves another 6 months to try to get prepared and to get this done. Online, Tom Latek. I knew you could not miss a Team Kentucky update. Unless he did.
Absolutely, Governor. Good afternoon to you. I've got two questions, and one is talking about the medical marijuana. You mentioned earlier that the number of licenses was based on the number of folks that you thought would be eligible for medical cannabis. What is that number that you think could be eligible? And secondly, any vetoes since sine die, and are you anticipating any?
I think I've made a couple of vetoes today. They're not big bills. There was one on a board of podiatry that's just not constitutional, but I don't think that's necessarily big news. There are a couple of small line items that I don't think are going to make, significant news that are out there, but we'll have a couple of vetoes, but not on anything that I've seen people following. Do you have the number on hand? Okay.
Thank you for the question, Tom, and it's a great question. So one of the things we were required to do under Senate Bill 47 is look at best practices in other states, and also look at what other states have done with their medical cannabis programs and what that looks like when they start up. If you look at peer states, which we did, for example, West Virginia, which is demographically very similar to Kentucky, and about just over a third our population size, their patient total right now is hovering between 32,000 and 35,000 folks. And now their conditions, they don't have any conditions. Doctors can prescribe based on the condition that the patient presents with. So that presents a challenge from our standpoint with the limited conditions that we have. But if you multiply their state total by, basically a factor of 3, we're looking at somewhere between 70 and 90,000 patients in the next 2 years. And of course, there will be a significant ramp up period over the first year. Thanks.
All right, John Charlton, WHAS.
Thanks, Governor. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right. I appreciate it. I wish I could be there in person. Just had a couple questions on the medical cannabis program. There has been some complaints about the pharmacist, rule to have a pharmacist at dispensaries or cultivator, or actually dispensaries. The complaints have been that that's just another, challenge to overcome to get what you need. Could you answer that first, and then I can ask you the second question?
Yeah, it was removed in this most recent piece of legislation.
Okay, that's what I thought it may have happened, but I didn't read it right. Second is the lottery. Could you guys explain a little bit more about that lottery, how it's done? Obviously, lotteries are different. Like the NBA lottery, if you're a team with a losing record, you get more balls. Is that something for like a preferential thing for small business, that they actually get a better chance?
We'll let Sam answer that one about how it's going to go. And while we're going to provide a chance to televise it, it's probably going to be a person at a computer. So don't get too excited that there are going to be floating balls that we're going to pick out with logos on them. But what we know is that states that don't have a lottery system, that go through other things, get weighed down in years of litigation, right? Everybody who thinks that they should have scored this or that they should have scored that, file litigation, and it delays and delays significantly. What that also means is typically those groups with the most resources, not a small business, but a big business, maybe an out-of-state operator, has the resources to keep things tied up in litigation, has the resources to delay it longer, has the resources to maybe score differently than other, say, Kentucky or small businesses would.
Thank you, Governor. And just to add to that, when we looked at our licensing structure, we looked at, again, other states. And one of the other states that we looked to was Oklahoma, which had unlimited licensing. And they released a report last year where they had a 62-to-1 oversupply of medical cannabis in their system. So again, we wanted to look at a more limited, structured licensing system. And through that, we're essentially limiting initially the amount of folks that can get into this new market. But if we're going to limit that number, we want to make sure that it's a fair and transparent process. The lottery is the best way to ensure that everybody has a fair shake and a fair shot at doing that. With respect to the lottery process, this is how that will work. So first, individuals and businesses can begin applying on July 1 of 2024, as we mentioned earlier. The license period, once you've submitted your application, we will review your application, giving hemp businesses priority, and House Bill 829 requires us to do so in terms of the review process. We will do that. Once your application is reviewed, we will determine whether it is sufficient or if it is deficient. If it is deficient, we will give you an opportunity to correct that. For example, if you do not have the appropriate documentation attached that we're requiring of you, or if you've not clicked all the appropriate boxes or made the attestations. Once we hit August 31st, the application window will close, and we will finish the last round of course, there will be a few folks that will apply late, and we'll give them an opportunity to cure their applications. On October 1st, we will take all of those folks that are deemed to have completed their application, and they will be put into a lottery. That is only if the number of applicants exceeds the number of initial licenses available. So for example, if there is a dispensary region and 4 people apply, those 4 businesses get a license and no lottery is required. In another example, if let's say 8 folks apply for a dispensary license in a particular region, then we will hold a lottery for that specific region, and we will be holding a lottery, I would imagine, for a number of these, and we've had significant interest. With respect to the lottery process itself, a file of eligible applicants for each license category where a lottery is necessary will be prepared by the Cabinet's Office of Medical Cannabis. The office will assign each eligible applicant with a unique numerical identifier, and then the Cabinet's Office of Legal Services will de-identify that file and send it to the Kentucky Lottery Corporation. And I just want to take a moment to thank the Lottery Corporation for their hard work and their partnership on this. The Lottery Corporation will conduct an anonymous, randomized, random drawing for each license category necessary in accordance with a set of written rules established by the Cabinet and the Lottery Corporation, which were signed this morning. The lottery results will be provided by the Kentucky Lottery Corporation to the Cabinet using an encrypted file listing the numerical identifiers selected by the lottery. The Cabinet's Office of Legal Services will compare this file with the original and re-identify the unique numerical identifiers and send the results to the Office of Medical Cannabis. The Cabinet and the office will then make the announcement of those who were selected in the lottery process.
So, like we said, a lot less exciting than that NBA draft, and probably a little less exciting than the 7th round of the NFL draft. But again, we want to be really transparent with all the details on how this is going to work. We've been able to put a lot of thought and a lot of research. So thank you to Sam on that. Austin Horn from the Herald Leader.
Hey, thank you, Governor. I had 2 questions about 2 different bills. Hey, can you hear me now?
Okay.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Great. I've got 2 questions about 2 different bills. One, the rationale behind signing Senate Bill 191. I believe that's the higher ed bill, changing certain weights on the performance funding formula and removing race from being considered. And then 2, there was a lot of discussion on House Bill 509, the open records bill. And I was just wondering if you had any general reaction to that not getting passed in the final day legislature.
Yeah, so 191 is one where I don't have the ability, I didn't think, to line item that bill. And even if you could, you can't add words back. The bill continues to reference underrepresented students, and it provides significant additional help to Kentucky State University, our public HBCU, as well as our regional universities that have struggled under the performance funding. And so, I'm trying there to decide whether to veto a bill in its entirety because of its removal of that word, which I support being in there. But at the same time, then have less funding coming to KSU, to Moorhead, and to those other institutions. I want to say very clearly that I support diversity initiatives in Kentucky. I support direct assistance to minority students. I believe that we are better when we are lifting every single one of us up. And I believe underrepresented students, including our minority students, have faced more challenges when it comes to post-secondary enrollment. That's one of the reasons that I fought so hard against the anti-DEI bill, because we were number 1 in the country in our increase in postgraduate enrollment, and in large part is because of underrepresented students going to college at a higher rate than we have ever seen. And so that was one where, to get the money where it needed to go, I had to sign something into law that I did not fully and entirely agree with, but I think that was the same decision made by a number of our legislators, including Senator Neal and others. Second, 509 is done. It did not pass. It never made it to me. It certainly had a number of different provisions in it, but it's done. And we've had 0 discussions on any legislation that did not pass this session with any legislator whatsoever. Rebecca Grapevine, Courier-Journal.
Yes, hello, Governor. Back on the medical cannabis thing. some states have faced challenges with underrepresented groups or groups that have been disproportionately impacted by past drug laws not being able to access the goods, the spoils of the medical cannabis programs. You mentioned wanting the program to be fair. Are there steps that you have or you will take to address this?
Yeah, I'll ask Sam to come up again. But one of the advantages of the lottery system is we've seen in other places where it's been instituted a better mix of ensuring that everyone has access not just to product but to the business opportunities themselves.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for the question. The answer to the question is, and I think the question was, will there be some social equity provision in the licensing structure for medical cannabis businesses in the Commonwealth? The answer to that is no, and the reason for that is because it was not provided for in Senate Bill 47 or in House Bill 829 from this year. Other states that do have social equity programs, they do so by law. And we did not have that in our law, and of course that is our guiding principle for establishing this framework. Thanks.
All right, we had a long Team Kentucky update today. As a gift, there is no Team Kentucky update next week. We will see you in 2 weeks. Remember, life's short. Our job is to do good things and be kind to each other. Thank you all very much.